Welcome to the Weekly Juice Podcast, where we discuss all things real estate, personal finance, investing, entrepreneurship, and the many ways to achieve financial independence. We interview accomplished investors and entrepreneurs with the goal that their stories inspire you to take control of your financial future. Here to get your creative juices flowing, while also documenting their own personal investing journeys, are your hosts, Corey Jacobson and Ryan Bevilacqua.
Welcome back to the Weekly Juice. As always, it's your boys Ryan and Corey here with another episode for you. Today we interview Josh Villareal. He is a real estate investor turned millionaire at 25 years old. He's now 26, so became a millionaire last year. He has a commendable story where he talks about the why, like why he gets out of bed every day to do what he does. Is he wants to retire his family and his parents. He retired them in the Philippines, and then now he brought them back to the States and wants to retire them here. It's obviously a little bit harder in California, so he basically wants them each to have, or overall, $3.5 million to retire them. And he's well on his way. As a young guy, I mean, at 17 he went into the Navy, and he's seen some things. He's been through the world at a young age, I will say, and to have that focus and lane early on was just interesting to hear his story. Way on the West Coast, right? So learned a couple new things about ADU units and a big 49 unit project that he's working on.
Yeah, so he found a 49 unit project basically through 2 degrees of separation through networking, where he started out with a couple small projects using a VA loan, where he was able to put $0 down into a project. And in San Diego specifically, and basically the whole state of California, you're allowed to put ADUs, apparently multiple ADUs on like any properties. And that's something that we haven't talked about this on the podcast before, like really getting creative in your own market and trying to figure out what works. And if there aren't duplexes that you can buy for $400,000 that can cash flow, which $400,000 basically buys you a tent in San Diego. So the fact that he's able to buy properties, add $60,000 worth of value to it, bring in $1,900 a month more in revenue. Like, it was just this creative way to then get a lot more money in his pocket, start a couple new businesses, start a wholesaling company. But he's really a trial and error dude. Like, he started something, it failed, it didn't work out. And then he went from a few units to this 49 unit project that he's turning basically a quadplex, knocking it down and building a 49 unit in San Diego. And everyone says that San Diego is like the hardest market to invest in real estate. Got a 26-year-old here for you that's doing it, no problem. So without further ado, let's bring in Josh.
Let's do it.
For real estate investors, going mobile is the next big thing for managing our properties. We like to have the power and resources in the palm of our hand. When we're hunting for deals, we're consistently go, go, go. Having RentReady's property management app is great for checking in on all our properties, especially when it's time to collect rent. With RentReady, we get the benefit of both mobile and web apps that allow us to collect rent from anywhere. We not only get instant notifications when rent is paid, but we also have the ability to send automatic reminders to tenants when rent is due or late. From finding the perfect tenant to collecting rent, everything an investor needs to build wealth and manage their investing portfolio can now be found under one roof with RentReady. The most exciting news is that RentReady gave us an exclusive 50% off promo code that can now be used by all of our Weekly Juice listeners. You just need to visit rentready.com and enter the code JUICEPOD to get 50% off any RentReady plan. That is RentRedi.com and enter the code JUICEPOD, JUICEPOD, to receive 50% off any RentReady plan.
Josh, officially welcome to the Weekly Juice Podcast. Corey and I are so excited to have you on the show, man. As we mentioned, we've done some research on you. We've been following you for a while on social. Incredible story, incredible content, and we're just thrilled to have you on the show. So thanks for joining us.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm excited.
Absolutely. So let's take us back. Give us the background story on you. I think anyone that follows you or they'll hear our episode, they'll assume you're a real estate investor. That's typically what we talk about. But give us your backstory and how you got into real estate investing, what sparked the idea, and then maybe what you did before to transition over.
Yeah, so basically, my whole life, everything that I've done has been on accident. So I just fell into things. So my first career ever was actually, I joined the U.S. Navy at 17. So when I joined, it was because I had to be the breadwinner of my family. Some stuff happened with my family that they had to go back to the Philippines. So I did it so I can have a paycheck every 1st and 15th. And then after that, I found out that $1,200 a month was not enough for me in San Diego and my family in the Philippines. And there was born my entrepreneurship journey. So I started buying and selling iPhones, went on OfferUp, and then I got into what else can I do for side hustles, and I eventually got into digital marketing. And then, so digital marketing, I started that in 2017. It was my first legit business ever. I started an LLC. I had to do the whole thing. Wanted it to be legit, and I made a whopping $3,000 my first 12 months, minus $5,000 in expenses. So it was great. Yep.
Little negative $2,000 in cash flow.
Sounds like an entrepreneur life, man, or the life of an entrepreneur. I mean, we, for a while, I mean, not to cut your story off, but same thing, right? You have to, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to be able to grind and understand you're not going to make money, potentially not make money for a really long time, and just keep sharpening the axe over time, and it'll eventually work out if you keep grinding. But to talk about your digital marketing exactly, like I know that's kind of broad. What was kind of like some of the arms of that?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I pretty much tried to do everything just to get my foot in the door. My first client was actually my dentist. I went in there. I was planning to pitch them on it while I was getting my teeth cleaned. And then it was going to be on Facebook ads. And since I had a decent relationship with them, they let me run it. So I started with Facebook ads with a couple dentists. It didn't work out too much until I found a niche that was way underserved and super antique, which was the auto body shop niche. So the auto niche, go ahead.
Well, it's really where my mind went is I was like, if you can sell something to a dentist while they have dentistry tools in your mouth, then you can sell anything. Because my dentist does the same shit. He tries to talk to me while I'm like at the dentist. I'm like, dude, I can't talk to you right now. Clearly, you're.
I actually hate that, and I'm so obligated to say something, and they're so not. The ladies are unbelievably nice, and they're just talking about life, kids, all that. I'm like, vacations. I'm like, you understand? I can't give you anything back right now. Like I was like, yeah, I'll shake in my head. I don't know, but
how did the auto mechanic thing work out for you? Sorry, sometimes we get off track.
No worries. So since it was a underserved market, all of their stuff is super antique. I don't know if you guys know what a squeeze page is. They only had basically a flyer as a website. Nothing you could click. It's just a picture, words, and that was pretty much it. So we went into website development, SEO, and Google Ads, and that took about 2 years to get into. And by the time I hit 2020, the beginning of 2020, I got a 6-figure income from there.
Wow. So we are, how do I say this? A bit of newbies in that sphere of SEO. We're ramping up our website, email marketing. Like we have a plan in place for a funnel system and all that, and touch points with clients and people within our sphere of influence. However, I'm curious, what is something like a package cost? Because we see it all the time. People always advertise like, oh, digital marketing, I'll come, social media, I'll run your social media, I'll help you with the website, I'll help you with Facebook ads, all of the above, right? I'm sure there's probably you can go a la carte or like an overall package. But I'm curious, can you give us an idea, or people listening an idea of what some of these services cost, and like if you're still, I don't know if you still have this business, but kind of what a new client could expect coming in?
So I do not have this business anymore. So when I said 2020, it was in the beginning, and then COVID hit. There was no cars outside, so my business took a hit. And I had some decent overhead, so I had to stop it.
That's interesting, Josh, because this is like a very typical entrepreneurial journey where you have things that work, you have things that don't work. One of your, I don't want to call it a claim to fame, but you became a millionaire by the time you were 25 years old. How old are you now?
26.
Okay, so you became a millionaire in the last year, which is awesome. And talking about a business that failed, one that you put $5,000 into and got $3,000 back, that didn't work. A digital marketing company that was doing really well and didn't work. Where was the flip? The switch, that flipped for you to be able to become a millionaire by 25. How did that journey kind of take off in between, I mean, it sounds like you became the 25-year-old in the last year, so in the last 2 years. How did that happen for you?
So when you're on your journey, every time you fail, the thing that you need to do is take the lesson with you, the skills that you created. The first time I started with the buying and selling, there was a lot of negotiation going on. It's very grindy, if that makes sense, where you have to give a lot of offers and get a lot of no's. So by the time I got into the sales portion of my digital marketing agency, every time I got a no, I'm like, okay, cool. I was already trained with it. I probably had, I don't know, 2,000, 3,000 no's in my life so far. That's just rough estimate. And then you take that skill with digital marketing and fortitude, because failing is really part of the process that's fun and not fun at the same time. And what flipped the switch was there wasn't really one thing. It's a culmination of a lot of things. That reminds me of a quote that one of my sales coaches once told me, is that success is irreducibly complex. Have you guys ever heard of that?
No.
So success is irreducibly complex, meaning if you do 9 out of the 10 things right, you're going to fail. You need to do 10 out of the 10 things. So it was a lot of things, to be honest.
Well, I guess my question is, was it real estate that got into that built your net worth? Like, what specifically did you do?
Oh, okay, got it.
That helped drive it forward. Yeah.
Yeah, it was real estate. So once I closed my business for the digital marketing, I was like, okay, maybe the world is telling me to get into another industry. And I read Rich Dad Poor Dad on the entrepreneurship journey of self-development, and I saw what was going on in real estate. There was ridiculously low rates, and in San Diego, there was a huge shortage. So I was like, okay, this makes sense right now. I'm going to take a risk. So I had about 40 grand left to my name from what I saved up, and I bought two single-family homes on one lot in San Diego for 800 grand, which is unheard of now. I bought it in May of 2020, which was one of the lowest transactions ever in real estate over here. So it was a pretty good deal. Next thing you know, I rehabbed both the properties, developed another unit on it, which is using the ADU play here in San Diego, and I turned the $800,000 house into 1.5 million, cashed out 300 grand. And then that's when everything started.
So how much did you have to invest in the rehab, and what specifically did you do? I know you mentioned the ADU, which is huge, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain for those who don't know what ADU is, that side of the business as well? But I'm curious, like, we think about furnishing Airbnbs. We've already done fix and flips. We haven't actually flipped a whole prop. Well, we have.
We shouldn't sell it.
We have to sell it. So I'm curious, rehab budget, right? You always feel like you're going to hit a certain benchmark and you go over. But so curious what you actually did to the properties to find the happy medium.
Yeah. So there's a front unit and a back unit. They're both separate. The front unit was a 1975 build, and they did not do any rehab to it. So I put it to 2021 standards during that time. And I did both of them. I put 40 grand into it, and then I did a cash out refinance using my VA loan. So with that VA loan, I got to get out 100% of my equity. I got appraised for $920,000, which was a lot less than what I thought, but I still got to triple my money, basically, which is decent, right? And then I ended up putting that same 40 grand plus 20 grand into the ADU. So it cost me 60 grand to build a garage ADU that I built out. ADU is an accessory dwelling unit, which is you could use a habitable portion of your house. So it could be a garage or build a ground up development in the back or something like that. And in California, you're allowed to have two. For a multifamily unit, unfortunately, you can only add one for this specific lot. So with 60 grand, I built it and I rented it out for $1,900, and the gross rent multiplier was $170. Are you guys familiar with a gross rent multiplier?
Maybe not the term specifically. Could you explain?
Okay. Yeah, gross rent multiplier, basically what it means is how much in equity you're going to get for every dollar in rent. So $1 equals $170. So basically with that $1,900, I made $323,000 with 60 grand.
So, and another thing to think of this way, if you made if you put 60 grand into it, just from a revenue standpoint, you're adding $1,900 a month, right? Which is, you call it somewhere around $20,000 a year. So you're getting an additional 30% return just by adding that on there. And then your money's recouped in 3 years. Would you say that's the best strategy in the way to get started in a market like San Diego? Because everyone says, well, Josh, how do you invest in San Diego? It's so expensive. Like, there's nothing, there's no homes to buy, and the ones that you buy are all $2 million. Do you feel like that gave you a competitive advantage out there?
Yeah, like I stumbled upon it. So I was just watching Bigger Pockets, and then I heard about ADUs. So I just wanted to see if it was viable. And it was one of the most cost-efficient ways to double or triple your money. Back then, there wasn't that much of competition of getting people to bid for ADUs. Like $60,000 now for a 150 square foot place is probably going to cost you 110 grand now, 120.
Wow. So let me ask you this. Thanks for the heads up on that and kind of like the walkthrough on ADUs, because that's, we haven't really dove too far in on that. But
not that many in our area.
No, we had talked about, there's one property we were going to buy. It had a separate garage, right? And actually it had an ADU in the front. It was going to be
it was like an old barbershop that we were going to turn into an ADU, and it was in New Jersey, which is more so, you find a lot more duplexes out there or unique properties. When you're in a city like Philadelphia, there's not that many opportunities for ADU. I wonder if there's like a township requirement, or there's some sort of like, certain areas you're allowed to put ADU, certain areas you're not. But go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, we went from, if I'm listening to the conversation as a listener, right, or follower here, I'm hearing, okay, Josh went to the Navy at 17, got out, started his own business, made 100 grand, or six figures. I don't know exactly what the number is, and then was like, oh, I want to go into real estate, then had this amazing deal, right? And you made triple your money. But what's the step in between? Like going from the business closing, right? How much research did you do before you were ready to go and buy a property? And then how did you decide it was real estate? I know you said you fell into some things, but the way you're speaking, and the terms you're using, I know you've done some research. You're a smart guy, obviously, but there's a lot of people that want to get into real estate, and they do some research. They don't know how much is enough before they dive in. And so take us through the research phase, how long that was, what you did for research, and then transition us into building your team, right? Because you can't just go into renovating all these units without a team unless you do yourself. So can you give us that story?
Yeah. So like I said, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad maybe 2 years prior. And I've always wanted to get into real estate, because once you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, you can't go back on not going into real estate, especially with 90% of millionaires. That's how they created their wealth. So I always had some curiosity along to go with it. And I probably listened to Bigger Pockets, probably like 200 episodes during the full 2 year span. And then once I got into the option of getting into real estate, how did I know when to jump in? It was when I was talking to my real estate team, which is my broker and my mortgage lender. So during that time, when I was talking to them, because I knew I need to use my VA loan for something. It's too good not to be used. If you guys don't know what VA loan is, for the audience out there, basically you could get into a house for $0 down, and the seller can actually pay for your closing costs, so you could really have $0. And I almost got $15,000 back from just buying that house. So
because you were in the service.
this is because I was in the service. And I forgot to add, I didn't get out till 2 years ago. So this whole thing was while I was in the Navy, active duty in the Navy.
Very cool.
Take us through the research phase a little bit more. I know you built your team, right? You just, maybe it was as simple as having the lender and having the broker, right? I think that people need to find a construction team, right? And maybe a handyman, maybe a property manager. Like, there's a lot of different members of the team out there. Well, maybe you just said, hey, I'm just going to take the plunge because I know that this amazing loan package that I'm going to be able to take on.
Yeah. So what I did was I went to find the most knowledgeable people that I knew at that time. So I just networked a lot. So when I started networking, that's when I found my broker and my mortgage lender. So my mortgage lender, I thought that he was one of the smartest guys, and turns out he is for real estate. He told me that the purchase that I'm going to make, even though it's very scary, that I'm going to look back at it and know that this is probably one of the best decisions I've ever made, even though it's one of the scariest. I didn't know what that meant during that time, but basically what that told me was just take the plunge. I have expert people behind me, and sometimes you just got to take the plunge.
So it sounds like you made the right decision there, Josh, obviously, because there's things that happened in your future after this that have, I want to talk about a couple things here. I know now you're developing a 40 plus unit property, and I want to know how you went from, having a couple rentals or a couple ADUs to scaling it to development, because development's a whole different animal than just being a real estate investor, right? Like, we haven't talked to a lot of people that have come on the show that have talked about development. I know you also had a deal that you turned $7,000 into $700,000. So that is like, we're talking about going from getting a VA loan, which a lot of people have access to, Ryan. I don't, and maybe not that many people, but people have access to then scaling to these much larger projects where you become extremely profitable. Maybe let's stick on the 49 or the 40 plus. Is it 49? Yeah, 49 unit. What are you doing in that development project, and how did you get even into that from where you started with the ADUs?
Yeah, so after I started with the ADUs, I used that $300,000 that I got and started a wholesaling business. And with that wholesaling business, we ended up doing like 16 deals last year with it, or is it a year and a half ago? And then we got into flips, then luxury flips. And we found out that we wanted to scale a lot more. For us to really make $5 million a year, that's a lot of flips. For here in San Diego, it's still like 20, 30 multi six-figure flips at that 20 mark for us to be very profitable. And I was trying to figure out other ways that we could be a lot more efficient with our play. And I got into development. I was just researching it at that point. We still have 2 flips going on right now, and I wanted to get into the bonus ADU play. So are you guys familiar with the new bill that passed for SoCal like maybe 2 years ago? So basically pretty much every house in California can now have 2 extra units. Every single house. So basically in San Diego, if you have a house, you can have a junior ADU and an ADU. So every house in San Diego can now be a triplex.
So let me stop you there. So what you have to do to that is, you're saying as long as you have the land or the space, you're allowed to go to the township and say, hey, I want to put a junior ADU and an ADU on my property, and you have to just pay a contractor, whatever that is that an automatic like exemption that you get approved for in any property? Does it have to follow some sort of standard, or you're basically saying that if you have the land, you can make it happen?
Most of the time, yes. Of course, you do have to follow city guidelines, but every single family home has the opportunity to become a triplex.
Is the purpose of that, Josh, do you think, to just provide more affordable housing for people to house hack, so, because it's so hard to buy a property or a pre-existing property in that area?
Yeah, so what California is trying to solve is the housing shortage. So specifically in San Diego, they're taking the biggest hit right now. So last year, there was 30,000 new jobs being created, but only 5,000 new units have been constructed. So multiply that into 5 years, there's a huge gap. So instead of just making a triplex like all of California because of the shortage, now in San Diego, you have the bonus density play, which a single family home can now turn into 20 units. And that's what we're getting into. And if you guys know about land values, your land value could easily triple just by getting it entitled.
So you're taking a single, hopefully I'm hearing you right. You're taking a single family home and adding 20 units to it?
So specifically me, for our team, we're taking 4 units and making it into 49.
Okay. Walk me through this. How does this work? I've never heard of anything like that.
Yeah.
Are you building up? Are you building out? Like, how does this even work? It's crazy.
Yeah. So, like I said, San Diego has one of the worst housing shortage in California. So their own legislation has created their own bill. So one of them is the bonus density play. And the second one is the bonus density play on steroids called complete communities. So basically, it is what it sounds like. It's trying to complete a community. So basically, with the specifically complete community bill, as long as you're half a mile from a TPA zone, which is a transit priority area, so if that's your bus stops, your trams within San Diego, every lot, doesn't matter if it's single family, multifamily, or commercial, it all becomes a multifamily lot. So that's a huge game changer that no one is talking about right now. Barely anyone even knows about complete community even exists. So now imagine this. You have a neighborhood, right, that has, 1 to 4 units and then some single family homes. Now, a single family home that has a 7,000 square foot lot, you can now build 50, 80 units on it. So for us, we found a 4 unit that's 7,000 square feet, and we're going to tear it down, and we could build 49 units on it, and we're going to do 5 stories with around 10 units each story.
Okay, so 4 units, 7,000 square feet. So I get it. It's a tear down. You're tearing it down. How did you one, find the deal? How did you get into the deal? Maybe give us some like really nitty gritty details of like how this happened.
Yeah. So I started with social media. Social media is really what has really helped my trajectory in where I am right now. And so in December 1st of 2022, that was when I went hard on social media. I haven't posted in years, and I knew that I had to go into it if I really wanted to take it to the next level. So I started posting every single day, and I did have a strategy because of my 6 years of background in digital marketing. So I knew that every time I had a follower, I need to create a relationship with that follower. It doesn't matter if I had 1 or 2 followers a week. I need to make a relationship with everyone that follows me or likes my stuff. So I started having conversations with them. And then I started with 1,000 followers. And then I think the third week, I had like 1,500 followers. And then somebody that followed me, I hit I hit them up because I saw what their page was about. They like to do developments, vacant lands, and complete communities. So I asked him, hey, do you want to get some lunch or something like that? And then we started talking. He started sending me deals. And the deals that he was giving to me, they weren't that good, but I was still extending of why they weren't and why I was looking specific things. So for the audience out there, when brokers give you deals, make sure you value their time. Like, really be explicit of why that doesn't work for you, and it has to be viable. So he liked that I was valuing the relationship, so he connected me with one of his friends. He's like, I can't get you something right now, but I want to connect you with one of my colleagues. So this guy, when I'm going to lunch, he ended up being a person that was doing $200 million of development within that year alone. I was like, yo, this is crazy, right? So started talking to him, and I was like, man, I want to do something like you, kind of being like a mentee to a mentor, talking like that. Like, what were like the steps? I really want to learn, right? And I guess he took a liking to me, and he was like, you know what? I have this little deal out in North Park. You want to take a look at it? So I ended up taking a look at it, and I saw that in 2.5 years, we would make $10 million. I'm like, this can't be real. So I went to one of my other buddies that I stayed close with on social media that has done $75 million worth of development. And he took a look at the deal, and he was like, bro, this is right. This is what complete communities can do. I was like, I have no idea how to get into development. I don't know one thing about big construction. Do you think you could help me out? And then next thing you know, me and him go 50-50 on it. And the guy that is doing all these developments, he ended up giving it to us for free. He just signed it over and gave it to us with one caveat. The caveat was that he has to be the consultant on the deal. Yeah, he's going to make a decent amount of money. We're paying him out no equity. But all that happened through social media with one DM.
So this is, and for everybody listening, it's pretty cool, Josh. It's a story of really of networking, and it's second degrees of separation, right? You met somebody, that person might not have been able to help you, and if I'm a broker, right, I'm probably not going to send the best deals to somebody new that I just met too. So I understand that position. It's like, I got to see if this guy wants to play ball. Like, can he close, right? He probably has a network of brokers or of investors who do deals consistently. Maybe Josh, he doesn't know if you're a serious player or not, but the fact that he was able to pass you along to somebody else, and I like what you said about taking a liking to. Now, there's an art and a science behind being liked. You know, it's I don't know if anybody's ever read the book. Oh my God, I'm drawing a
How to Win Friends and Influence
Yes.
People, Dale Carnegie.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, dude. Thank you. How to Win Friends and Influence People, and it's the title kind of maybe might rub people the wrong way because you're not, win friends and influence. You feel like you're like you're pulling a fast one on people, but really what the book is talking about is how to bring value and be liked and show up for other people so that they want you to be a part of their lives. And that's kind of what you did here, Josh, maybe inadvertently, but like just being wide-eyed and listening and being open. I'm not suggesting that this is going to happen to everyone that walks into a room that wants to meet with somebody who's bigger than them. But what happens is, Josh, you get into a bigger room, and you get into a room where somebody's doing $100 million, $10 million to them, it might not be worth their time. And for us, or for you, for any of us, we might think that's crazy. How could $10 million not be worth somebody's time? But it's the power of getting into a room where people are doing bigger things and they're thinking bigger, and then it allows you to slide in there and say, I can take this on, I could do this, and you're bringing value to them because you're paying them as a consultant. So all of that whirlwinding together is just really a testament to make sure that when you meet people, you write down shit that they care about. You write down something that you can follow back up with them. Maybe even if it's something they talk about with their daughter or their son. Like I've seen scenarios where somebody like buys a jersey, all of these little things. I don't know what you did, but you did something right. And look at, you were able to scale just by having a few conversations.
I think that's a very good point. And I want to talk about like the new room today is social media, right? And a lot of people don't
I say like getting into a room. It's actually getting into the sphere of social, right?
Sphere of influence, right? And I think the important thing is there's two ways that people look at it. Some people go onto social media just to flex what they have and like show, oh, like I got a bunch of followers because I post my Lamborghini, all my stuff. But Josh, you did it in a way where you were engaging with your followers, you build relationships, you took it off social media into real life, if you will, right? And that's how you scaled up. We've candidly have done the same. I want to talk to this is like, let's talk about scaling your social media a little bit too, because I know you have a bunch of followers, like over 150K. I believe it's your brother. He is about 750K. And I think he might be your production guy. I could be off on that. I was just doing a little bit of research. But how did you guys scale your social to that vast majority of people and build the community so much? And like, I would say such a short period of time. Because there's a lot of people listening that are like, hey, listen, I'm trying to put my message out there. I'm not gaining any traction. And for them, it's probably hard to do consistently every day when they're not seeing any results. So give us a little peek behind the curtain for you guys.
Yeah. So the story behind my social media journey is I started December 1st with 1,000 followers, and 70 days later, I got 100,000. So with that, I had a thesis of my strategy, which was creating more broad niche videos. So the first thing you need to do is understand what the algorithm actually wants. An algorithm, how it works is for it to go to the next 100 people that it shows, the first 100 need to watch at least 100%, or 50% of the people need to watch it 100% through. So you need an average watch time of 50%. And every time I hit that metric, I've at least had 500,000 views. And some of them, if I get 55%, they're like 4 million right now. So
that's insane. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off on that. But do you then make your videos shorter so people want to consume them? Like it's maybe 5 to 10 seconds where it's a complete playthrough versus a minute? Because the reason I asked that, just remember that question, because we post minute to a minute and a half depending, because it's our podcast, right? We want it to be like actually contextual information from our show so people will go listen to the episode fully and not just get a minute clip. I don't know that it's working, whereas we're not getting the algorithm reach we would like because it's changed so many times. So are yours shorter for a reason? And maybe give us a little bit more of the tips and tricks here.
Yeah. So what I found out during my testing, as I told you guys before, I was only at 1,500 followers my second or third week. So it was gradual, and I was doing a lot of testing. A lot of things weren't working, but a lot of things were working as well. So the thing that I found out was the longer ones were a lot harder to retain attention. So a method that I like to talk about is the goldfish method, which is humans have the attention span of a goldfish, which is 2 to 3 seconds. So if you think about a 60-minute video, you have to buy their time 20 times.
60 second video.
60-second video.
Yep. That's interesting.
You have to buy their attention 20 times. So if it's a minute, it has to be pretty good. If they're pushing long form, then that's fine. But during that time in December, January, they're still pushing short form. So I found out that 20 to 30 seconds is a sweet spot. And if you do shorter, it's not going to be 55 seconds now. You might be going for 100%, 120% watch time.
Are you writing your own scripts for these videos? And the reason I'm actually just doing a little research while we're chatting here you have amazing quality on your videos, and also just the editing too. Obviously you have a company that does it for you. It's your company, but they're crisp, they're clean. But I also noticed there's like little transitions in there. And is that what you're talking about, buying people's attention? you have to put those in so they're not just looking at your face the whole time. They start seeing the other graphics, and they're like the little like dog syndrome when they're like you're a cat when they just keep tweaking and looking left and right. Is that kind of where we're going?
Yes. So all of those little things, some people do find it annoying, but the data speaks for itself. More often than not, people want something to really retain their attention. The little dings, the little swooshes, it is dying down a little bit now because there's a transition phase for all the trending. Well, right now, those little things do help with retaining attention.
Cool. And back to my original question, do you write your own scripts for like, how do you come up with content ideas? I know there's also companies out there that you can pay to do it, right? They're niched out and they'll just give you scripts and you sit in front of a camera and read them. Little tips of the trade here for people that want to be content creators, but I'm curious if that's your brain power, because that's a lot of work.
Oh yeah, it is a lot of work. I was spending, I don't know, a whole work week, 40 hours a month trying to get to where I was, 100,000 followers. So what I was doing was I was following my metric back then, my strategy, or it was called the 25-5 ratio. So 20 of your content is going to be broad niched, meaning you're talking about a wide TAM, so total addressable market. So if you're talking about real estate, there's only so many people that want to get into flipping, right? That knows the nuances of what's a DSCR loan or something like that. But what a lot of people want to get into or want to learn about is how to even start a business, because that's a step out of the addressable market. So just taking a step out into the broad niche and is business. And one of my first ones to get like 3 million views was top 3 LLCs, like the top 3 LLCs in 2022 or something like that.
And it was very short form, I'd imagine, high quality, but then also do you worry about hashtags? Do you worry about the actual caption? Does that play into keeping attention as well?
It's not, I don't think so. Again, this is my theory. It hasn't affected anything. We just keep it in there, but there is some segmentation in the posting platform where you could put topics now. So that is a little bit more heavy, and the actual content that you're talking about is pretty important. As long as it's broad enough to capture a wide audience, because back to the algorithm, right? If you want 50% of the audience to watch it half the time, how many people will actually understand what a draw is?
Right, exactly. What you're saying is that you don't want to talk about something that's so niche down, it's so specific that you're talking about a specific laminate flooring that you're doing in a rehab. The point is that everyone that needs to start a business or wants to start a business needs the LLCs, potentially, right? There's other ways to start a business, but that is the reach on that is like, oh, okay, this is the top 3. I don't know if you're talking about top 3 states or the top 3, like, ways to get an LLC. And most people are like, oh, I want to start a business, I got to start an LLC. So having that broad spectrum is drawing or reaching just a wide variety of people, which ends up driving up your views.
Yeah. Last thing I'll ask is, because there's a lot to this. Is there any science or data behind the timing of day you post and then the frequency you post during the week? Is it multiple times a day? Are you doing it at night? Can you give us kind of like where your head goes for the algorithm?
Yeah. So with the time of posting, a lot of people, they say they could post at any time and it'll do good regardless or do bad regardless. I believe that you should always post during peak time. So you could look into your insights, and then we usually post about an hour to 30 minutes before peak time. And it's usually once, or if you're lucky, it's twice a day for you guys.
So is that like let's say peak time for us, we're in the same niche, pretty close, business and real estate. Is that
talking about looking actually in our analytics to show the peak time?
I've seen it. Yeah. It's like
3 p.m. or something.
8, so yeah, there's 3 different times. Like there's 8, 11, and 3 or whatever it is. But do you do a morning, while people are like, maybe they just wake up an hour before they go to work? That's kind of where we feel like, all right, we'll catch some of our people then. At one point we were posting twice a day, right? So we did the morning, the afternoon. Have you played with that? Are you morning guy? What's your time?
Mine is between 3 and 5 p.m. depending on the day.
Cool.
So for some reason, a lot of my followers are from the East Coast. So that's usually the time where everyone is getting out in California. So that's around 6 or 7 p.m. over there.
Interesting. Okay,
cool. So before we wind down the show, I did want to go back to the 49 unit development because we talked about what it could bring you, like this $10 million in the X amount of years. But like, I'd like to hear just like your plan with it. I know you're in the middle of it now. What do you think it's going to cash flow? How much are you going to put into it? Like, I really want to get into some more details on that, and then we'll wind it down. But we got into the networking talk, and you mentioned that you're like, oh, $10 million in a few years. And it's like, okay, people are probably like, wait, where'd you go on that one? Let's just dive into that real quick, and then we'll wind it down.
So this is a 506B. So as you guys know, I can't tell you specifics publicly.
Got it.
But
so you're raising capital to try to and you have shares and payouts for specific investors. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Are you going to transition to a C at any point? Because I know there's you can at this point.
Yeah. Once I'm more established in the multifamily realm, because right now relationships is what's really helping us do this fund. And with 506C, it's a lot more public stuff, as you guys know.
Yeah.
I think people that have a bigger brand, bigger track record, it works well with 506C. I don't think I'm there yet.
So for people that are listening that are wondering what, maybe you know what we're talking about, maybe you don't, but 506B is a syndication where you can raise capital from friends and family, and the SEC regulations state that you're not allowed to market it. So you can't post it on social media. You can't do a podcast episode and like broadcast it to an audience. You're supposed to have a pre-existing relationship with the people that you're raising money from. It's, there's some like nuanced rules, but it's like 30 days or more. And it's like, you have to have multiple communications with them, but just basically friends and family.
They're not accredited investors.
Well, I think they can be accredited investors.
Right. They don't have to be.
But they don't have to be accredited investors. Yeah, exactly. The 506C is more of like a regulated product where you are raising money from accredited investors only. And that is individuals who have over $1 million net worth or that's outside of their primary residence, by the way, and or $300,000 plus in income with a spouse, or $250 solely. I believe I said that correct. It has to be over a certain period of time. So those are accredited investors. And the 506C, you're allowed to post on social media. You're allowed to put it on a podcast. You're allowed to broadcast it out into the world and receive funds from individuals that you may not know. So that's kind of the difference. And Josh isn't really allowed to talk about it, but in a 506B, he's raising money from friends and family. Everyone will own a percentage of it. So you'll be a general partner, I assume, on the project and be an operational partner. Is that right?
Yes. I'm basically the boots on the ground over here. My team is local. The person that I'm partnered with is from Santa Barbara, so a little bit north, and I pretty much run everything over here for the operations. Yeah.
Cool.
And for the numbers, I know in the regulations I could be broad, right? Like broad gist of what, like the steps that we're going to take. So for example, we bought the deal for 1.6 million, right? We bought it for 1.6 million. We're putting about 600 grand into it. That's for the soft cost and everything. And then we're going to start getting the entitlements, hopefully around February 2024. So that's, what is that, like 8 months from now? Something like that. And then from then, it's going to be a 14-month build out with weather. So that's including windy, raining. So if it's perfect weather, which I'm hoping for, it's only going to take 11 to 12 months. And then it's going to take 3 months for 3 to 4 months for stabilization. So in total, it's around 26 months, worst case scenario. And with our investors and ourselves, we're going to be bird out the deal within those 26 months. And then all of our investors can have infinite return until we sell or do whatever.
Sell or refire it. Yeah. So that's awesome. I think for people listening, what Josh's story is really telling you is that you have to be creative in 2023, and in a hot market, which a lot of our listeners are. A lot of our listeners are from Philadelphia. It's hot. New York, LA, and everywhere is hot. You can't just go out and buy a duplex and assume it's going to cash flow anymore. So the creativity of the ADU, do some research, figure out what's going on in your local municipalities. Can you do that? Can you add, in Philadelphia, there's adding, people add, instead of going and buying a new house out in the suburbs, they build their house higher. Maybe you are allowed to build your house higher and have a separate entrance. I don't know how that works. I mean, I'm just throwing examples out there, but the creativity is what is going to win. And that's why you're seeing people that are crushing it on Airbnb when they give all these experiences, right? Not just renting out your house and putting iPhone photos up. So that is the way in real estate in now and moving forward, because inflation is just driving up the cost so much. So I think the story is awesome. The strategy is awesome, and good luck with it. It sounds like it's a really cool project.
Yeah.
Cool. You want to go to the core four here?
Let's do it.
Cool. First question of the core four is, what is your favorite business or real estate book? I know you mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad. Maybe if you could throw another one at us, because only 100 out of 160 people have mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad on our show. So,
a Blue Ocean Strategy by Harvard Business Review.
Blue Ocean Strategy.
Yeah. So basically, everyone wants to battle in the red ocean. So that's your flipping, your wholesaling. But what you really need to do is find somewhere that no one is playing in. It could be a little bit different, a little bit scary, but the blue ocean is where everything happens. Yeah.
Cool. That's nice. Second question of the core four is, if we gave you an additional $100,000 tax-free today, how would you spend it or invest it? Think about it like a pie chart, and why. You know, there's some people that'll throw it all into one thing. Some people dice it up into multiple things, but based on your journey.
Some people might buy a Maserati. Who knows?
100,000. I'll probably put. It's hard because I'm a GP on the deal, so I would put it in my deal. Right now,
maybe a little reserve.
Yeah.
Contingency.
Yeah, I'll probably put it in contingency. Yeah.
Cool.
Nice. Okay. Easy enough. Third question. What's the biggest mistake that you've made, Josh, in your investing, real estate journey, business journey? Sounds like you've made quite a few, which has driven you to the ultimate success. But maybe what's your biggest and why?
I know this one because I was just talking about it yesterday. It was partnering up with the wrong person. Yes.
So how did you know it was the wrong person?
They lost me a lot of money. Yeah. So
what was the give us a minute on this, and like,
okay,
how'd you find the person? Where were the red flags? Why did you think you can trust them? Just give us synopsis.
Okay. So for me, I like to scale quick. I test something out. Once something works, I like to scale, delegate. So in my digital marketing business, that's what I did. So when I made a mistake or delegated too fast, it only cost me maybe $2,000 as a client, maybe $4,000, right? But now when I delegate too fast in real estate and I make a mistake, that's a $10,000 mistake, could be a $50,000 mistake. So that's essentially what it is. I didn't look too deep into who I was partnering with. So this person, I met them through networking. I did one deal with them. They were super late on it, but I wanted to give them a second chance. And I found out if they mess up on one, I should not be working with them again, especially if it's a lot of money. So that's the new rule that I have. If you mess up once, the goal is not to even mess up. No.
One strike and you're out, though. I got it.
Half a strike.
Yeah, right.
Cool. All right. Last question on the core four is, Josh, what do you want your legacy to be? So what's your overarching why to get up out of bed every morning and do what you do?
So my number one thing is, so I brought my parents back here last year, and retiring them in the Philippines is a lot different than retiring here in America, which is around 3.5 million each to retire. So I am not there yet. So that is what wakes me up in the morning, is trying to retire them. And for my legacy is just build a life where I have freedom. And freedom can mean a lot of things to other people, but for me, it's just doing what I want. And I do want to do business, but I also like to eat and travel. So I'd pick and choose.
Josh, last question for you. Can you remind us your age again, please?
I am 26.
I just want to say you've done a lot for a 26-year-old, and I know everybody has their own journey, but to have a why like that, right, and want to leave a legacy, and to know it at your age, obviously it's probably taken years of experience and worldly experiences, right? You already mentioned you were in the Navy, you've probably seen some things, but I think it's commendable and we appreciate it. I think it's very cool. A lot of people aren't as seasoned as you in life, and have the right head on their shoulders, and not the right or wrong, but just one that you know your lane, you know what you want, and you're getting after it every day. So we appreciate the wisdom today, the knowledge, and sharing your story. It was a pleasure getting to know you.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for tuning in this week to the Weekly Juice Podcast. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and share with friends. The more ratings we get, the more ears we'll get on our show, and in turn, we'll be able to provide you with more high-quality guests. You can also find us on Instagram at Weekly Juice Pod, where we post daily tips and tricks and document our own journey towards financial freedom. Make sure to tune in every Wednesday to get your weekly juice.